It is a Premier League show live here on Joy Sports on Multi TV. My name is Kwame, and as usual on the show, we're going to be bringing you highlights of what transpired over the weekend. Incidentally, this weekend there were no matches in the English Premier League. It was time for FA Cup action. So this evening, the show is going to be dominated by what transpired over the weekend in the FA Cup. Some teams getting some very, very good results. But again, if you're a fan of Manchester United, things just don't seem to be going well for the club at the moment. United are desperate for results, and the results have not come in like the way the fans would want. What exactly is happening with them? What exactly is happening with their players? Because these are the same set of players that won the English Premier League last season. We're going to be looking at the highlights and, of course, the high points and the low points when we come back from this break. So you know the English Premier League is big and heavy on this platform. This weekend, we're going to be bringing you live action from the lane. It's going to be Tottenham, who have a new manager. They are yet to lose under Team Sherwood. They are up against Tony Pulis' Crystal Palace. And what a transformation they've gone through since the appointment of Mr. Pulis as a head boss. And Holloway was struggling to get the club going. But incidentally, they've been able to get a few results and are now out of the last three. Maybe, just maybe, they might just escape relegation. And as usual, I have Coach Abubakar Damba here to help me with the analysis for today. Coach, it's always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Yes, very good for having me.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my brother.
And I'm sure you're doing well. It's been 7 days into the year already. I would want to believe things are going on very well.
By His grace, things are going on well, but it's early days yet.
Well, that's what they say in football. It's early days yet, so it's only 7 out of, 365 one-quarter days, so we can't just be celebrating yet. We'll be looking forward to a very wonderful year. As usual, we begin with a highlights package, and again, I would want to stress that there were no matches on it in the English Premier League over the weekend, but it was FA Cup action, and we've got some highlights of these games for you.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer returned to English football with a big job on his hands and a familiar smile on his face. But his first challenge after taking over from Mcgee looked like a daunting one, to end Cardiff's 50-year wait for a win at St James's Park. There were few signs early on that he'd succeed. Hatem Ben Arfa came close in the first half for Newcastle. And when the Cardiff defence failed to deal with Yoann Gouffran's through ball early in the second half, Papi Cissé gave the home side the lead. But Solskjaer then began to prove he learned some valuable lessons from his time playing for Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson. He sent on Craig Noone, and within a minute, the switch paid dividends as the substitute came up with a spectacular equaliser. Solskjaer was famously introduced as a goal-scoring sub by Sir Alex in the Champions League final back in 1999. And while the stakes weren't quite as high and the circumstances not quite as dramatic, this match was to have the same scoreline. Another Cardiff substitute, Fraser Campbell.
These sides met in the league on Boxing Day, but for two strikers who didn't start that game, the cup version brought differing emotions. Frustration for Darren Bent, initially denied by Mark Bunn. And likewise for Ricky van Wolfswinkel, Norwich's record signing on his first start since October, but unable to beat David Stockdale. But then Bent's day picked up, the striker heading his first goal for 3 months, and for the fourth cup tie running late in the first half. To give the Norwich bench a familiar feeling in this fixture. It's almost 28 years since they last beat Fulham. But before the break, they were handed another chance to end that run. Josh Murphy on his full debut, setting up Robert Snodgrass for the equaliser. The third round provided another striker with a chance to impress at the Britannia, and he grabbed it gratefully. Kenwyne Jones with his first goal since late October, on his first appearance since late November. But Stoke were still grateful for something special to ease their passage into round 4, and 10 minutes into the second half, Charlie Adam provided just that. And the threat of championship leaders on a 4-match winning streak had been quelled. Although Leicester substitute David Nugent did set up a frenetic last 15 minutes.
Also, this was the game between Chelsea and Derby over the weekend. The Blues getting a 2-0 result. And guess who was on target? John Obi Mikel. It doesn't very happen that often to have Mikel getting a goal in games that Chelsea do play. And this is only the second or the third goal I recall all through his Chelsea career. And thus at a point when Macclesfield had been substituted, Chelsea would go on to win by 2 clear goals, and thus was the second goal of the afternoon, courtesy the Brazilian wonder kid, Oscar. He would definitely be going to Brazil when the tournament is going to be held in his home country. Chelsea would go on to win this game by 2-0, and Derby under the management of a former England manager of course, Steve McClaren, who was boss for the English national team that failed to qualify for Euro 2008. He was sacked. At some point, he went on to Holland, won the league title there. He moved to Germany as well to coach Wolfsburg, and is now coach of Derby and the Championship. And this was the game that a lot of Manchester United fans would not want to see. This was the game against Swansea on Sunday afternoon. I recall watching this game, and I was asking myself for the 18th time when Manchester United was going to get a result when they play at home. They say Old Trafford is now the theatre of doom. And this is a game that United would go on to lose by 2-1. And that was after they scored this brilliant equalizer, courtesy this man, Chicharito. And it's a strange coach. Every time you have Chicharito in games of Manchester United, he almost always seems to score.
Yeah, I think he's one of a lucky player, and he always finds himself at the right time, at the right place, almost at the right time. And he's a real marksman. I think the coach has to consider using him most of the time.
And this man was so down that even when United scored, he did not celebrate. David Moyes, he's under a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. Simply, you also realize that he played minus about 6 or 7 of his regular players.
It's still not an excuse.
It's not an excuse.
If you're a coach of Manchester United, you've got to get results.
Definitely, you need to get results. But sometimes it does happen. He cannot get himself excused because he didn't have the full squad.
There was no Wayne Rooney. Yeah. There was no Robin van Persie. Quite a number of first teamers also missing in action on the day when United lost by 2-1. And this goal coming right at the death by Ivorian international Wilfred Bony. He's been scoring goals for fun. And this was a game nobody wanted to miss over the weekend. It was Arsenal versus Tottenham in that North London thriller. Coach, I would want to believe you've had the opportunity of seeing this game. And this game is some game in North London. If you've ever been to that part of the world, you understand what I'm talking about. Santi Cazorla getting Arsenal in front. And from this point, you just had the feeling that Arsenal were going to score more goals.
Yeah, Arsenal they were on top of the game. But I don't know what happened, but normally, typical Arsenal football, they never take their legs off the pedal. But sometimes, during this season, I don't know what actually happens. Sometimes they are caught fluctuating here and there. And they have to work on their psychological aspect as well.
It's all about consistency. If you're a fan of Arsenal, quite a number of players are making their way to the treatment room. And Tomasz Rosiecki, well, he's 33 and counting, and he still plays like a very, very young footballer. Arsenal will be delighted with the second goal, stealing the ball off Rose and making his way to score their second goal that all but ensured Arsenal qualified for round number 4.
Clumsy defending, huh? Oh, clumsy defending.
You've got to give a lot of credit to Tomasz Rosiecki for stealing the ball way around the centre circle and still managing to sprint and making his way up. And this man was just disappointed. And if you're a fan of Tottenham, you understand what I mean. And this is a very, very sorry sight if you're a fan of Arsenal, because Theo Walcott is going to be out for 6 months, we are told.
That is a long time. The injury should have been very devastating,
That injury was a very poor one on his knees. And this was the game between Man City and the Blackburn Rovers. Alvaro Negredo, he's been scoring goals for City, loads of them for fun this season in all competitions. And he was on target yet again in this game, getting the first goal that seemed to suggest that City were going to go on and score a lot more goals. That clearly did not happen, and Blackburn managed to get themselves back into the game. And at a point, City had to cling on because Dedrick Boyata was sent off with some few minutes to go.
Yeah, that is true. But look at this particular scenario. Look at the goalkeeping. I don't know what he wanted to do. Whether he wanted to catch, to punch, or whatever.
Absolutely horrendous.
Indecision.
From a goalkeeper of this magnitude. Watch this. What was he thinking?
Oh, indecision, huh?
Literally gifting that goal to Blackburn, and watch the celebration. I mean, come on.
You cannot blame him for that.
You just can't blame him. And this, for me, was the most shocking result over the weekend in the FA Cup. This is supposed to be a team that plays in the Championship, in the Division 1.
Yeah.
In Ghana, we would call this, this grade third division.
Third division,
Now, you're playing against a team that plays in their least division. That's what you call the Premier League. So it's Division 1, Division 2, Division 3.
Yeah.
And Forest, who plays in the Division 3, defeated West Ham, who play in Division 1, by 5-0.
Sometimes it happens in the game. When you look at, the level of the team and play according to their level, you have a problem.
Because cheeky. Cheeky. How about this for a goal? It reminds me so much of an incident in 1976 when the Germans played Czechoslovakia in the final of the Euros, and that name has been on the lips of many, many football fans anytime they see a penalty taken this way. His name was Panenka. He's still alive, played for Czechoslovakia in 1976. He scored a penalty of this magnitude in those days, over 30 years ago, and that name has now become a very synonymous part of this penalty. It's only players who have a lot of guts who will take penalties like this.
Telling you, and you need to have a lot of courage to do this, because if you miss this, your coach will never forgive you. Because,
Forest at this time were on a rampaging form, and you come to think of the fact that after 64 minutes, it was only 1-0. So in the final 26 minutes, they scored 4 added goals. Yeah. And Big Sam has been under a lot of pressure by his decision to parade quite a number of youngsters and concentrating a lot more on the Capital One Cup that is coming up later this week. Of course, West Ham United are going to be up against Man City on Wednesday. The other semi-final, of course, Manchester United playing later today. They are up against Sunderland, and United will be desperate for results in that particular game. So at this point, Forest leading by 2-0, but they would go on to score 3 added goals from this particular point. And this, incidentally, is a team with a lot of history, of course. Yeah. And, Coach, I'm sure you are one who follows the records very well. This Nottingham Forest team, at this ground, the City ground, they won 2 UEFA Champions League titles in 1979 and in 1980. So it's a team with a lot of history.
Of course, yes. But then history sometimes does not repeat itself. But looking at this particular game, you realize that, the opponent never took off their legs off the pedal. They kept on pushing and pushing and pushing because conditionally, I think they are better conditionally. That is why they put so much pressure on the opponent. Easy. The pressure was just too much for them to handle. And
I'm sure they had a look at the players on the other side and thought, if West Ham were not playing with their regulars, they always had a chance going into this game. But no one, absolutely no one, would have thought that Forest, champions of Europe in 1979 and in 1980, these days, so down, they play in the Division 1, would literally butter West Ham United like they did over the weekend. 5-0. Unbelievable scoreline.
Terrible.
Unbelievable scoreline this was.
They will wish to forget this as quickly as possible.
And at this point, if you saw the game over the weekend, you could just sense that the West Ham players were just waiting for the final whistle.
Yeah, of course, yes. Yeah, because they were already, demotivated. Conceding five goals. It's not an easy thing to do.
And it gets to a point where, as a player, I don't know, when you're conceding so many goals, I keep on asking myself what goes through the heads of these players. Is it a case of damage limitation, or they still just go out to play like they were doing from the first minute?
Very well. Normally, when you concede goals like this, there's a lot of demotivation which comes along with it. But professional, you're supposed to play till the last blast of the whistle. But sometimes, human as they are, you know, what is it that's going to pep them up? You know, it's always a problem. And sometimes you need to forgive players for this. But then professionally, it is not the best attitude. Attitudinally, you're supposed to pep up yourself, bring back yourself into the game. But it always takes one individual player.
When you're beaten by
to do
5 goals to 0,
that is
you
right.
still have that same motivation from the very first minutes?
Very well. That's why sometimes the question does come up that it is not the coach's problem. He's not responsible for the results of the team, but he's responsible for the performance of the team. How are the players performing? How are they playing as a team? But if they're not playing as a team, so the results does matter. But if they are playing well and losing, the coach sometimes takes consolation from that fact. But if they're not playing well, it means the coach is doing something wrong. So sometimes...
And a lot of times they are fired.
And a lot of times they are fired.
What a job this is. When you're getting results, you're the best coach in the world. When the results are not going your way, they say you're simply not good enough. Well, we've gotten to see our highlights package. We are now going to be focusing on our top 5 goals that were scored in the FA Cup over the weekend. As usual, we begin with what we think, of course, me and my technical team in-house, what we think is the top 5th goal over the weekend.
Gnabry. Ох, как рассудил сейчас 18-летний паренек.
Well, so we get to see our goal number 5 for this weekend. Courtesy this man, very familiar, I'm sure, if you've been following his exploits in the Spanish La Liga and his time in England playing for Arsenal. Santi Cazorla, fantastic left foot.
Left foot.
But sweet one.
But also with the outside of the foot. You see, realize the outside of the foot, spinning the ball towards the opposite side of the goalkeeper. But the goalkeeper did well by narrowing and closing down the near post. So in this instance, the credit goes to the player.
Well, and I'm sure every time our viewers see these goals, they are thinking of how we decided that this goal will pass for goal number 5 or goal number 3 or goal number 2. We're looking at very basics of the game, and in this particular case, we're looking at the technique the player used to score the goal. And like Coach just said, he did score with the outside of his feet, courtesy this brilliant pass by the German youngster, Serge Gnabry.
Oh, la la.
Oh, fantastic finish. Arsenal fans will be delighted to have seen that goal, which will pass for our goal number 5 for the weekend. Let's get to see goal number 4 over the weekend.
Charlie Adam provided just that. And the threat of championship leaders on a 4-match winning streak had been quelled. 10 minutes into the second half,
well, we get to see our goal number 4 for the FA Cup over the weekend. This one coming from Charlie Adam, former Liverpool player, these days fans' favourite at the Britannia Stadium. And I love to see these goals, especially when they are scored from distance.
From distance, yeah.
Sweet shots on target.
And takes it on the run. You will see he took it and missed 5 defenders. You know, nobody was making an attempt to close him down. There was a lot of space. He picked his spot. He saw the goalkeeper and zoom, the shot went there. Good technique. Yeah, look at the technique. Good technique.
And it hits the inside of the post as well.
Yeah.
Charlie Adam winning our goal number 4 for the weekend. We've seen goal number 5, we've seen goal number 4. Let's have a look at goal number 3.
Solskjaer was famously introduced as a goal-scoring sub by Sir Alex in the Champions League final back in 1999. And while the stakes weren't quite as high, in the circumstance...
Well, we get to see our goal number 3, courtesy this man, Noon. Cardiff City have been under, the microscope in the last couple of weeks. Former manager Mcgee being dispensed with. Owner Vincent Tan clearly not happy with the manager and the job he had done so far. He's brought in former Manchester United player Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Yeah. And what a way for the players to respond to him on his very first match of his time in charge of the team from Cardiff. He travels up north and gets a result.
I'm sure the coach has a lot of confidence in such a player. He carried the ball from a particular distance, and it took him about between 5 to 7 meters. He still carried the ball along and took the drive. You know, this takes a lot of, courage and confidence for a player to do that. 3 players clustered with 3 defenders behind him, but still he had the courage to shoot amidst the cluster of legs. Good technique, good courage, good concentration.
Amidst the cluster of legs, Noon chooses to strike from the stands, and he scored in a game that was played around noontime.
Yeah.
And his name is Noon.
Noon. So, so he takes credit for that.
Well, he takes credit for that, and he gets to win our goal number 3 for the weekend. Let's move on. I'm sure you're itching to see what our goal number 2 and our goal number 1 is. Let's have a look at goal number 2. So this is our goal number 2 for the weekend, and this was a goal that was scored in a game between Manchester United and Swansea. It will look very simple on the eye, but we call this intelligence.
Yes.
He sees the goalkeeper move off his line, and he just dinks the ball over the goalkeeper.
You know, the problem is that the moment the ball was lost, the goalkeeper never anticipated that the ball was going to be lost at that particular time because he had moved off his goal line. You know, he was following the attack. And this is one of the moments of, attacking and losing the ball. That's one of the moments of the game. So there was no way the goalkeeper could have retrieved. He could have gone further than that. He just had to stay. But it takes a lot of intelligence to do this. You know.
It takes a lot of intelligence. Wayne Rutledge scoring the first goal in that game between Manchester United and Swansea over the weekend, and that gets to win goal number 2 for the week. I'm sure now you're itching to see what we think is our goal number 1. I'm not going to give you a clue. Let's have a look. Well, it may not be your most sumptuous goal on a particular weekend, but we're giving this player the honor of winning our goal number 1 for the week as a result of what we called super bravery. Yes. I mean, it was 0-0 at this point, and he decides to do a panenka. He's got to be very brave to do that.
Of course. You know, I mean, how many players can do this?
How many brave players can do this?
So I think your technical crew were right on the spot to have, dubbed this goal number 1. In my opinion, I think it is goal number 1.
You just want to watch this over and over and over again. And credit would go to that man from Czechoslovakia, Panenka. His name is. He did this at the 1976 final of the European Championships. It was Czechoslovakia against Germany. And one of those penalties won the Czechs the European trophy. I recall 5-3 that game ended, and he gets to win our goal number 1 for the week. How about that for a finish? Fantastic, if you ask me. Well, we've seen our highlights package. We've seen our top 5 goals. We get to see what the goalkeepers have also been doing. And this time we're looking at our top 3 saves, beginning with our save number 3. Well, so this is our top 3 saves over the weekend. Again, this one looked very, very fast, but when you get to see the replay, you understand why we think this is our top 3rd save. He tries to dummy the goalkeeper. He stretches out his legs and makes a save. They don't always make a save with their hands,
Normally, but certain goalkeepers will be tempted to foul the player for a penalty. But look at this situation. He was very, very, very cautious. Very, very cautious. He did not leave the leg. He just spread it across, and he was able to intercept. I mean, good goalkeeping.
Very good goalkeeping. And insight. Knowing the fact that he was a former goalkeeper himself, he has given us a perfect insight. Most of the time, we see goalkeepers fouling the strikers.
Most of the time, yes.
Most of the time, they get penalties from those incidents.
You are tempted to foul the player, most of the time. But it takes a lot of patience, for goalkeepers to be able to avoid such, fouls. But in this instance, I think the goalkeeper did a very, very, very good job. He had a lot of insight, good anticipation. Credit to him.
Good anticipation, credit to him. Save number 3. Let's move on and get to see save number 2. So we get to see our save number 2 for the weekend in the English FA Cup. And again, it was in that same game between Chelsea and Derby County on Sunday. Chelsea winning this game by 2-0. But the save that was made by this goalkeeper is 40 plus. That's Thomas Schwarzer.
And he's still so flexible and agile. You know,
to make such a save.
Yes, but this is the collapse save. You know, we always refer to it as a collapse save. He didn't need to dive. It takes a lot of flexibility to be able to do this. And at his age, he's still able to do
40.
Yes, very disciplined, huh? Very, very disciplined.
Very disciplined goalkeeper Thomas Schwarzer gets to win our save number 2 for the week. You're looking forward to our save number 1 for the week? Let's have a look. So this is our save number 1 for the week. And that was goalkeeper Hugo Lloris from Tottenham making that save in the game between Arsenal and Spartak. And when you watch, you know, this particular save, especially from this angle, you would understand why we think goalkeeper Hugo Lloris deserves to win the save number 1 for the week. Now watch the pass at this point. The first pass or the first contact with the Arsenal player takes him off to a different direction altogether. And then he goes for placement. He doesn't go for power because he knows that placing the ball at the right spot gives him the goal. And watch how Lloris had to stretch to parry that ball away.
Yeah. You know, I give a lot of credit to this goalkeeper, spreading his whole body, stretching full length. You know, this is the time goalkeepers are called to do the 100% save. You know, spreading the whole hand. He didn't make any attempt to stop the ball, but to direct the ball round the goalpost. He was very, very conscious of his positioning and also his body posture. Fantastic goalkeeping. Excellent.
Excellent goalkeeping thus by goalkeeper Hugo Lloris, winning our save number 1 for the week. This is the Premier League show. We are going to be going for a quick commercial break at this point to acknowledge our sponsors, Vodafone. When we come back, there's still a lot more coming up in the Premier League show.
For Spurs, scores! Smashed through the wall! Boy, they needed that! Tottenham Hotspur smiling again! Anticipation in the penalty box, and once again, he gets there first. Waiting cleverly, Sancho! Oh, what a goal! That is brilliant! That is brilliant! And it's Shabak and Palace lead. Ending and oh, it's a terrific finish. Now that's what he can do, and boy did Tottenham need that.
The broadcast of the Barclays English Premiership is proudly brought to you by Casapreco Alomo Bitters, Nokia Lumia, Modern Auto Services, dealers in Rexton and Corando Cars, and Stone Lager Beer.
What is it? One for international calls, this for cheap calls to any network, and this because I hear better.
Like seriously? Duh. Listen, you need to choose Vodafone Red. No one beats Vodafone network quality. When you're on Vodafone Red, you get more minutes to call your Inter on Vodafone and your Exter on other networks. Your brother who is abroad, test your roommates, browse the net, and you get all this for as little as 5 Ghana cedis. And the red experience that comes with it, discounts on movie tickets, free browsing at internet cafes, and you can get tickets to Vodafone events and parties. Close your mouth. Now before you break another nail, dial *200# to subscribe to Vodafone Red.
Vodafone, power to you.
You're still live here on Joy Sports and Multi TV. This is the Premier League show where we take a critical look at what transpired over the weekend in the English Premier League. We'll look at all the highs and the low points. On the show today, we've gotten to see our highlights package. We've gotten to see our top 5 goals. We've gotten to see our top 3 saves. And of course, away from all that, there are also controversies almost always on the pitch. And today as well, we managed to pick up one of these controversies. Let's have a look. Well, this is the high point over the weekend as far as our controversies are concerned. Now even the replay, if you happen to be a very close friend of the Swansea player in the picture, your heart misses a beat, and Fabio was given a straight red card for that poor tackle.
I think he deserved the red card. He deserved the red card.
Even and the replay is scary.
I even believe he will not go without a fine, because this is a career-threatening tackle. He could have broken, he went straight into the shin of the player. He could have broken his leg by this. Even though I don't think it was an intentional thing, but it was a late tackle. He should have seen it. He should have anticipated that he will not get to the ball. But his main intention was not to play the ball. I think it was too bad.
Straight away he knew. He just knew that he wasn't going to go unpunished for this by referee Mcgee, top referee. Yeah. He gives him a straight red.
Yeah, straight red. And he knows it's a red card.
He didn't complain either.
And of course. What is he to complain for?
The more you watch this,
it's dangerous. Very, very dangerous. He even apologizes immediately. Yeah, it's dangerous.
Very scary. Even the replays are very, very hard on the eye. And Manchester United would go on to lose that game. United's season have been very, very poor and wretched, especially when they've played at Old Trafford. How many games have they lost in all competitions this season already? They've lost to Swansea, they've lost to Spurs, they've lost to Newcastle, they've lost to Everton, they've lost to West Bromwich Albion as well. The results are just not, coming the way of Manchester United at this point. There's a lot more news from the English Premier League. Let's catch up with them.
We'll go there. It's the first leg of a 2-legged final, so it's difficult to judge exactly how the first leg will go. But we'll go there and try and get ourselves to a cup final if we can.
This is Hernandez, and that's Young. Oh, and that's sensational. There's no other word for it.
I want to try and get to every cup final, so every competition we enter, it's the job to do that and get the cup final and win it. So we'll try and do that, but we've got to overcome Sunderland in a 2-game match. We'll see if we can do it.
Well, United have an impressive record against Sunderland. Adnan Januzaj scored his first 2 goals for the club in a 2-1 victory in October.
Januzaj again! That is unbelievable! Just as the teenager must have dreamt it last night, he has come up with the goods magnificently.
Robin van Persie's strike deflected off Titus Bramble to hand United the win there last season. And despite Wayne Rooney's winner in this fixture 2 seasons ago, it was a far from happy outcome in the title race for Sir Alex Ferguson's side.
Manchester City have just levelled a 2-2 against Queen's Park Rangers and still have a couple of minutes left to try and take the lead. And would you believe it, they have! Manchester City have scored in the 4th minute of stoppage time.
We know Man U. You know, they make a few changes on off from the weekend. The players that are coming in, they are very good players, top players, so it's going to be difficult anyway. I think it's a good opportunity to do something special in an average season, especially for the fans. It's an opportunity to go to Wembley and be champions. Sometimes, you know, a few teams they get in there when nobody expects them to be there, and what a day, you know, for everybody.
Sunderland have only beaten United once since the club moved to the Stadium of Light in 1997. That came just over 13 years ago in the fourth round of the League Cup. Julio Arca and Kevin Phillips scored the goals for Peter Reid's side.
And obviously the biggest blow is to Theo himself. It's a massive personal blow. But as you say, it's a huge blow for Arsenal as regards their title hopes, and it might just force the club into going into the market right now, which they're able to do. It also impacts on England and the Brazil World Cup. The positives, of course, for every time a player gets a serious an injury as this, there are positives. And young Serge Gnabry did so well against Spurs. He's just 19. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, people tend to forget, you know, he's been out virtually the whole season. He's very close to returning. So there are, from Arsenal's point of view, it's fortunate that they have those two young players on the way back. But it was really ironic that I was, having been at the game live, I watched the recording yesterday. Only then did I realise how well Theo had played in the central striking role, and was in the process of texting congratulations to him when I heard about the anterior cruciate. So I did text him then, both to say how well he played, but to say we were thinking of him. And as you would expect, because he's such a good guy, got a very, very positive response. He said, I mean, it wasn't a long reply, but I mean, apart from thanking us for getting in touch and mentioning about how well he played in the game, the main line that came through it was, I will get through this. Still in his early 20s, and you think of Aaron Ramsey with a career-threatening injury that he had, and how well he's come through that. I know that with all the treatment that he'd get and the positivity that Theo has, and he remains positive and always has done, even when people have been questioning whether he had the intelligence to make the certain runs. And, you know, it was those sort of runs that caused such a problem, plus his pace, because pace scares defenders and defences, and that's what we saw against Tottenham. So we all wish him well. It's a huge, huge blow. It's a trio of blows for Theo, for the club, and obviously for England.
Yeah, we've just even seen him score a headed goal, which he did a little while ago. Having watched him, you mentioned those criticisms over him in the past, whether unfounded or not. How much has he matured as a footballer, do you feel, this season alone?
Well, I think that has been showing in the last 18 months particularly, but you've got to remember, you know, how young he was when he first arrived, and he's a bold boy. He's very ambitious. For any footballer, let alone a young footballer like Theo, to desire as much as he did the number 14 shirt, which is a very famous shirt at Arsenal, as you are well aware, once held by the great Thierry Henry. You know, for a young boy to say, look, that's the shirt I want, that's where I am going to aspire to reach heights like that. Okay, you might not have that natural ability, but his development has been, it's been a continuous development, and I've been really thrilled. I've always been a supporter of Theo, not just because of his work as at Willow, but because I think that a player at that pace will scare any defence anywhere in this country or abroad. Will be definitely putting their heads together to look at the options, and Alex has to show that he's come through what was a really bad knee injury himself. But he again, I've no doubt that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Serge Gnabry are very similar in that when they receive the ball, their first movement is always a positive movement with speed. And, you know, there are similarities with those two, so I have great hopes for them, for their futures. And but it might just be that one player would just help to strengthen that squad.
Well, if you're a fan of Arsenal, this is indeed a very sad story. If you've looked at Arsenal in the last couple of matches, especially during the festive period where they were under tremendous pressure after dropping points against Chelsea and that rain-drenched game, Theo Walcott contributed significantly to results. I recall against Newcastle, contributed to results against West Ham as well, where he did score 2 goals, I remember. And of course, over the weekend where he did contribute as well to Arsenal getting the results for Spurs. Coach, this is a very, very influential player for a team that needs him, that is on top of the Premier League. How do they move on from this?
It's very, very unfortunate. And you must also remember that injury is part of the game. And that's why we always have replacements, equal replacements for players. I believe that even though it is a blow to the whole Arsenal team, and he, especially as an individual player, the coach will definitely not be too happy. But then, you will have to work around the clock to find a replacement. And I know they will do this as quickly as possible. Or, in another way, they can transform somebody to play that role that Walcott has been playing. But they will surely miss him a lot.
And you're looking at the options that Arsenal do have at the moment. The young kid, Serge Gnabry, the young German 18-year-old, he's fitted in very well in games that he's been given the opportunity. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain can also play from that position of the pitch. So Arsenal at least do have options, but these options are very, very inexperienced at this point. And as to whether they will be able to get the results for Arsenal, they say time will tell. Let's catch up with a bit more on the gossip side from the English Premier League. That should be on the screen shortly. So there we are. Manchester United, we are told our manager David Moyes will be given a free rein in the January transfer market. United clearly would have to sign quite a number of players. And look at the list of our players that we understand Mr. Moyes has given to the club to sign for him. Koke is there, Marco Reus is there, Ilkay Gundogan is there as well, Eliakim Mangala, who plays for Porto, is there, and Luke Shaw. Now, what I checked with regards to these players, if they are going to be sold, none of these players, I understand, is going to be sold for more than £30 million. Wow.
That is going to be, a lot of financial, what do you call it?
Injection.
Yeah.
Well, they say a club like Manchester United might just be able to afford these players. So we'll wait and see whether any of these players will make the transition from their clubs to the theatre of doom at this point. And United are also set to miss out on defender Fabio Contrao. We understand the player might not move from Real Madrid after all. Well, a bit more on the gossip side, and we also do understand that David Moyes, he clearly needs players to come in and make a difference for his side. Now, he has sent scouts to watch Diego Costa, who's been scoring goals for fun for Atletico Madrid, and of course, Ander Herrera, who was close to joining the Reds for up to €36 million before the transfer deadline ended. Unfortunately, that deal could not go through. And one Manuel Mata, he's been frozen out of the Blues, and we understand Atletico Madrid are said to be interested in his services. Tottenham are also looking at maybe loaning out Eric Lamela, who came in for £30 million, but has struggled to settle in England. And Crystal Palace boss Tony Pulis is said to be planning on making a loan bid for Chelsea striker Demba Ba.
Because, I think he was just coming back into a bit of form. If he could keep that going to the end of the season, everything was going really well for Arsenal as well. And he could have looked forward to the World Cup in Brazil. It's going to be a massive loss for Arsenal because you looked at the areas where they might struggle up front, scoring goals. Theo's definitely chipped in with goals himself. So Arsene Wenger now looks at it and it's a big, big problem for Arsenal now. And the transfer window is going to be very important for Arsenal. The likes of Berbatov has been mentioned at Fulham. He could maybe do a job. He's on his last year of his contract. Could get him on a cheap probably. £2 million being reported. So, that might be an option for Arsene Wenger. People talk about Diego Costa, who's having a fantastic season at Atletico Madrid. I think he's got something like a €40 million clause in his contract. Whether that, can be done, we'll have to wait and see. But Atletico are going really well in La Liga and obviously in Champions League. So whether they don't want to let their players go, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously Podolski as well. He could play a big part. Now he's back fit. But, I think Arsene Wenger looks at it. This could be the last piece of the jigsaw. If he can get the right striker in, maybe Arsenal could go really close this season.
Atletico Madrid's Goethe heads a list of players David Moyes will try to bring to Manchester United after being handed a £100 million transfer budget. That's according to the Daily Express.
The same paper reports that Borussia Dortmund's Marco Reus also features on that list, but says it's likely Moyes will have to wait until the summer to make the signing.
Juan Mata will hold talks with Chelsea this week over his future at the club, according to the Daily Mirror. It says Atletico Madrid hope to sign him on loan this month and make the move permanent in the summer.
The Sun reports that Eric Lamellas' agent has flown to Italy to speak with Inter Milan and Lazio about the possibility of taking him on loan from Tottenham for the rest of the season.
Spartak Moscow's Aiden Mcgee is close to signing a pre-contract deal to join Everton in the summer, according to the Daily Mirror.
Hull last night had an offer rising to £8 million for Stephen Fletcher, rejected by Sunderland. That's according to the Times. They apparently want a fee closer to £12 million.
Daily Mail claims Fiorentina are keeping a close eye on Nemanja Vidic's contract situation. Could make a move for the Manchester United defender if he doesn't renew his contract, which ends in the summer.
And the Times reports that Fabio Contral has agreed personal terms with Manchester United, and the only thing stalling his move are the demands of Real Madrid, who want a higher transfer fee.
So a bit more news on the transfer front, in addition to what we brought you for the gossip as well. Who is going to be heading where? It looks like all the players are going to be linked to Manchester United, but we understand that a lot of these players are saying that, hang on a minute, we can only be available in the summer. Our seasons are going very, very well, especially with the players who play for Atletico Madrid. It's been a wonderful season for them. They are top with FC Barcelona and the Spanish League, all on same points, only goal difference separating the two teams, and it will be interesting to see whether Coach Diego Simeone will be ready to let Jorge Koke and Diego Costa, of course, move on mid-stream. Marco Reus is also doing wonderful with the Borussia Dortmund. We'll see how all this pans out. Let's get to see the results of all the games that were honoured in the FA Cup over the weekend now. So here we are. It's Forest who got a result against West Ham United. Sunderland, quite a number of matches, I have to say, were honoured over the weekend. Sunderland getting a result against Carlisle. Derby 0, Chelsea 2, Liverpool 2, Oldham 0, Port Vale 2, Plymouth 2. Manchester United losing at home to Swansea City. It was Blackburn Rovers drawing 1-0 with Man City. The return leg is going to be played later. And Aston Villa losing yet again to Sheffield United. It was Barnsley 1, Coventry 2, and Bolton Wanderers 2, Blackpool 1. We'll get to see a lot more results shortly. So here you are, a lot more results of games that were honoured in the FA Cup third round. Brighton Hove Albion getting a result against Reading. Bristol City drawing 1-0 with Watford. Doncaster Rovers losing by 2-3 to Stevenage. Everton getting a result against Queen's Park Rangers, 4-0. And it was Grimsby Town 2, Huddersfield Town 3. Ipswich 1, Preston North End 1, Kidderminster Harris 0, Peterborough United 0, and Macclesfield Town also drawing 1-1 with Sheffield Wednesday. Middlesbrough losing by 0-2 to Hull City, and Newcastle United also losing by 1-2 to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Cardiff City. A few more results of our games that were honoured over the weekend. Norwich drawing 1-0 with Fulham. It was Rochdale getting a result against Leeds. Southampton, what a thrill it was against Burnley, winning by 4-3. And it was Southend United also getting a result against Millwall. Stoke City defeating Leicester by 2-1. West Bromwich Albion also losing by 0-2 to Crystal Palace. Some resurgent form under Tony Pulis. And, of course, there was Wigan drawing 3-0 with Milton Keynes Dons. And Yeovil Town getting a result against Leyton Orient. And Arsenal, of course, getting a result against Tottenham Hotspur. Now, these are results of the FA Cup. Let's get to see the upcoming fixtures in the English Premier League later this weekend. And, of course, we'll be telling you the game that will be live here on Joy Sports on Multi TV. It's Hull City versus Chelsea. Chelsea will be looking forward to catching up with Arsenal. Cardiff will be playing at home. They will be up against West Ham United. Everton will be up against Norwich. Fulham will play Sunderland. Southampton will play West Bromwich Albion. Spurs will play Crystal Palace. Now, that game is going to be live here on Joy Sports in Ghana. And then, of course, it's going to be Manchester United. They are going to be playing Swansea yet again. And I'm sure you're thinking, oh, no. And Newcastle United will be up against Man City. Big game those weekend. Stoke will play Liverpool. And the big game on Monday. Arsenal fans, you have to wait till Monday to get to see this game between Aston Villa and Arsenal. Let's get to see the English Premier League table going into this weekend. So this is how it is looking like. Oh, how close is this one? Arsenal on top on 45, Man City on 44, Chelsea on 43, Liverpool on 39, Everton on 38, I think, Spurs on 37, United on 34, Newcastle, Southampton and Hull City in the first half of the table. We'll get to see the second half of the table shortly. Well, so here we are. Is Aston Villa, Stoke City, Swansea, West Brom, Norwich City, Fulham, Cardiff, Crystal Palace, West Ham United, and Sunderland in that order. Let's get to see the goal king chart. So here we are. Oh, Luis Suarez, he's running away with it. He scored 20 goals already. Sergio Aguero on 13, Yaya Toure, Loic Remy, Wayne Rooney, Daniel Sturridge, Romelu Lukaku, Olivier Giroud, Aaron Ramsey, and Jay Rodriguez making the goal scorers chart. So I'm sure you're looking forward to the games that are coming up over the weekend. Coach, final words before we check out of here. I'm sure you're looking forward to the games that are coming up this weekend. Tottenham, remember, if you're a fan of the Lily Whites, they are going to be up against the opponents, Crystal Palace. That game will be live here on Joy Sports on Multi TV over the weekend. And the team Sherwood Spurs haven't lost a game in the English Premier League.
But Swansea against
I thought as much. He's a fan of Manchester United.
You know, but seriously, we're going to have the services. Rooney is going to be back. Evra is going to be back. Vidic will be back. So I think that we'll have about 4 of our regular players coming back. So I think it's going to be a different story to tell come this weekend.
We'll see how that goes. United desperate for results at this particular point. We're going to be drawing the curtains on the show pretty shortly, but we're doing that on a very, very sad note. European Footballer of the Year, Eusebio, what a player he was. We understand he scored up to 733 goals in 745 top-flight games. Portugal top scorer for many, many, many years. Pele rates him as one of the best 100 ever players who graced the game. Unfortunately, he died on Sunday. He was buried yesterday. Our hearts and thoughts with Eusebio and his family at this very, very difficult time. And we leave you with the scenes of what transpired in Portugal. Very, very solemn scenes in there. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Jesus. And players paid their respects at the club's Estadio de Luz Stadium yesterday before Eusebio's coffin was carried onto the pitch in front of an adoring crowd. He was then taken on one final lap of honour before the funeral cortege made its way through Lisbon on its way to a special mass attended by Portugal's former stars Nuno Gomes and Rui Costa. Coffin was applauded out before being buried at the Lumiar cemetery in the north of Lisbon.